I'm speaking with my very good friend. We went to NYU together. Rachel is a licensed mental health counselor. She's based in Long Island in New York. And I have lots of questions for her about her work today.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi, Omar.
Thanks for speaking with me. So Rachel, the first thing I want to know from you, we were speaking earlier about the quarter life crisis. What's that? How
Yes.
does that work?
I primarily work with adolescents and young adults. So, young adults, we're going to look at ages between 18 to 25. And so, the quarter life crisis is something that occurs to a lot of people who are right out of high school, don't know what they want to do, or they get right out of college. And especially my college kids, you get to this certain point, you're 21 years old, you have been told by society, you have to do this. And then once you're out of here, once you're out of college, you
Mm,
should have a job and have it all out, have it
mm,
all figured out. And what I have found is majority of people go, I have no idea what I want to do. I have no
mm,
idea what's going on. And how did I get here?
mm,
And so basically, my role as a therapist and as an individual counselor for them is to help them figure out, you know, that there is no rat race and that what they're feeling is actually very normal. Even after graduate school, a lot of people kind of go, I don't know what I want to do. I don't know who I want to work with. And so it's this normal thing that's so uncomfortable and so
mm.
anxiety producing because everybody believes they should have it figured out.
Hmm. Do you reckon that this is something on the rise? You've been working for more than 10 years, so how it used to be back then and how it is now, is this
No,
becoming a bigger thing?
no, I think that this is a normal thing that
Mm,
everybody goes through. A
mm,
period in their time in life where they have been told by their parents, their teachers, maybe their mentors that you should know what you want at this right early age of 20.
mm,
And I
mm,
think for a lot of people, it's not until much later on in their life where they go, "Oh, I
mm,
have I have confidence now. I feel
mm,
more certain and sure of myself."
mm.
But I think it's very premature for many of us to feel that we should have it figured out by the time we're 21.
Yeah. So what are some of the things that you're asking people to do or to try out when they're that age? Are you asking them to try out different roles or to, I don't know, take a gap year? What are some of the tools and
So
tricks?
I truly believe that they have to start doing journaling and self-reflection to
Mm,
figure out what are some of my interests, what are some of my hobbies, what would give me meaning and purpose in life.
mm,
Do I want to make a lot of money? Do I want to have a home? Do I want to have a family? Do I want to
mm,
travel? Where do I want to go? And then thinking about that to help formulate a career path for themselves.
mhm,
Because
mhm,
again, I think for many of us, at least for me, I thought I really wanted to help people. And I really didn't think about money at the time. And
mm,
as I've gotten older, it's like money is extremely important. And, there's a possibility if I were to really have thought about what I wanted in life, maybe I would have chosen a different path. And that's
uh-huh,
why I think for many of us, it is quite okay to, reevaluate, rethink, and
mm,
possibly, like shift yourself to think about something else or do something else.
mm.
Because
So
again,
let's
like,
say,
how could you know?
I agree. If there were, let's say, a 21-year-old or a 22-year-old who's stuck in that place and they're coming to you and they're saying, well, we just don't get it. We're either done with our degree or we've just held our first job. It's not making sense. At that point, how are you helping them navigate? What might they want to do from that point?
Yeah. So again, I think some of it is going to be, just coping with the sadness of not knowing what they want to do.
Mm,
Right.
mm,
And, again, coming to a place of acceptance and then trying different things out and, being okay with, I think this is something new for our generation is being able to say, I'm going to try this out. And if I don't like it, I'm going to try something else.
mm,
I know for a lot of people, like I know my parents' generation, it was like, you're going to do this and that's what you're going to do. But I
mm,
feel like a lot of them were unhappy and miserable.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
think our generation and the younger generations don't want to feel that way. So
Mm.
that is where the shift is different.
Okay.
Where I think many of us, you get out of college and you kind of are like, now what? And
Mm.
did my degree teach me anything? Did I really get the exposure that I need? Or, like you said, I try a new job. I try the job that I was trained to do. And
Mm.
now I'm having panic attacks because I don't like it,
Mm. 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 Mm.
you know? And sometimes you have to take a step away and do something completely different to then
Mm.
maybe find out that maybe it is what you want to do. But,
Yeah. So in some ways, you're
that's
also
actually what happened.
normalizing
What was
you're
that?
normalizing that sort of very developmental evolution, which is that, I mean, there's no other way of knowing that. Whereas in the previous
No.
generation, if the idea was that you've got to know it from the start, you're normalizing and making people accept, which is this is the only way that you were going to know if you liked something or
Yeah.
not.
And
Mm,
obviously, back in the day, trades were valuable too. So a lot of
mm,
kids were kind of pushed into trades. But for a lot of people in our generation, it's go to college.
mm,
So you go and you get more education, but a lot of our educational system doesn't really provide us with the experiences that we need to figure out what you want to do. So, kind of to shift gears, and for me, when I was diagnosed with cancer, I was kind of blessed because I had lost my job, got diagnosed with cancer, and started a different job where I wasn't doing therapy anymore.
mm, mm,
At that time, I was kind of burnt out. And it was kind of interesting because not really being a therapist for somebody for, I want to say, a year and a half actually made me miss it. And that is how I'm here in private practice.
uh-huh, uh-huh. I want to know more about that.
Yeah,
In with your lived experience of cancer, how did that change your view of people who are going through terminal illnesses or
for
difficult
sure.
illnesses? And do you work with cancer survivors? Do you support people
Yeah.
through their cancer journey? Hmm.
So yeah, I do. So basically, from my experience, I have became very open and upfront with people about death. I'm more realistic than I ever have been because I
Mm,
feel like it's very important to talk to people in a true manner, in a kind of like, Albert Ellis kind of a way, not
mm,
to get too
mm,
psych nerd on everybody, but, just being able to be upfront with people. And, you know, I work with several people who have survived cancer. I work with several people who were recently diagnosed and are going through it.
mm,
And it's a very privileged place because at least I could understand and relate a lot more to people. I
mm,
understand the trauma response a lot better. I
mm,
understand, how difficult anniversaries can be. So,
mm,
after there's no such thing as being over it,
mhm,
and I feel like a lot of people, you think, oh, you're done with treatment, you're cured, you're done.
mm,
But the individual actually is never done and is
mm,
continuously on edge, numb, waiting, anxiously waiting for the next ball to drop. And
yeah.
so, from my experience, working with individuals, from my experience dealing with cancer and having it, and then it allows me to educate people on,
Mm,
oh, we're upcoming an anniversary period where you were diagnosed and you started
mm,
chemo, started radiation. So you're going to feel weird
mm,
and you feel this odd disconnect from yourself and from the environment you're in for until you're out of the trauma time. It's really
mm,
interesting.
mm.
But for people who'd never been through something like that, you wouldn't know.
You more than that insight than with your lived experience. You can relate more. So I mean, look, from the cultural context that I come from, a lot of times people will not seek therapy. Or I have lots of clients where parents
Yeah,
are going through cancer treatment, and even when the kids might say that seek therapy, they might either not sort of
yeah.
see that that's important. For those sort of people, what might therapy be able to do, or what sort of support can they expect?
Well, I feel like therapy is a wonderful way for you to get a non-biased person to listen to you and witness what you're feeling. Your
Mm,
family members are going to have emotions attached to what you're going through. your friends are going to have emotions attached to what you're going through.
Mm,
Whereas somebody who is not going through it can be able to give you the support that and care and understanding that you need,
mm,
because your family's going through it, your friends are going through it, they are
mm,
going through their own traumas, so to
mm,
speak.
mm. That makes
and
sense.
and something else too is, like, again, once you're done with treatment, everyone forgets about it.
Yeah.
They move on. It's
Mm,
not a thing anymore. But like I said, for somebody who has gone through it, you're still going through it for
mm,
the rest of your life. You will.
mm, mm. That's obviously a very complicated space. How it
Yeah,
might
well,
be
that's,
constructed for a family member and how a therapist might be looking at that.
oh, for sure. And that's why I think having somebody else be there for you and comfort you and
Mm,
possibly be open and honest with you where other people might not.
mm, mm.
Obviously, we could talk about dying and what that feels like, and, the
Yeah.
anger you feel. Like, I'm working with an individual right now who, you know, she has cancer, and, she's angry that she might, you know, die before her friends and her
Mm,
family.
mm,
And that's
mm.
upset. But
Yeah.
can you talk to your friends about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you
And
talk to
sometimes
your
it
loved ones
can
about
be
that?
very empowering, just sort of be able to say to someone, I'm scared of dying, or here's
Oh,
how
for
I'm experiencing
sure.
that.
Or I'm jealous that you get to live.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Ugh,
Yeah. Without overburdening another person or they're being
for
defensive or
sure.
you're feeling guilty or something negative, just being able to
Yeah.
say how it exists for you.
Yeah. And again, in a space where I'm not going to judge you,
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
That
not going
makes,
to tell you how you feel is wrong.
yeah.
You shouldn't feel that way. Oof.
Mm, mm,
You
mm,
know,
mm.
you're exaggerating.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Mm,
I might say to you, well, that may happen. And how
yeah.
does that feel to know that that may happen?
Yeah. Whereas I'm just thinking that's a usual work with most of our clients, but sometimes when it comes to someone with a terminal illness, it might be so easy for a family member to just get into that place where you're trying to protect them from their feelings or just sort of
Oh, for
normalizing them, don't
sure.
think about death or just sort of just look at the
Hmm.
bigger picture, or you're going to be okay, or just we'll pray for
Yeah,
you.
that you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
Whereas, I mean, if you're feeling I'm dying and I'm just sort of I'm angry at whatever God, universe, people, I'm just envious of
hmm.
get to live, and being able to say that to another person and being very authentic and being received authentically
For
in that.
sure.
All right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because again, when you're
Mm,
working, when you're talking to your friends, they're not going to be able to talk to you about that.
mm.
They're not going to be able to ask you those questions.
Yeah.
They won't even think about it
Yeah. Yeah.
because they
Um,
might not want to. Denial is a thing.
I'm going to make that a segue into relationships. When we were earlier
Yeah.
talking, I mean, we had a very interesting chat about sort of we were talking about modern relationships and how modern relationships are very strained. And you made a very good observation that some of that might have to do with premarital counseling, where people are
Yeah.
contracting relationships without sort of knowing why they're in that for. Tell me a bit more about that. What's your experience with that?
So again, a lot of people seek counseling, couples counseling, even as a couple. That's not
Mm,
even just, oh, we're married, but we are in a relationship, and, we're thinking about getting married, but we, want to go, we want to address certain things to see if this is going to work. Or even without being married,
mm,
can we make this work, right? That's why couples counseling is so valuable and so important. and
mm,
and again, from my experience in couples counseling, using a lot of the Gottman theories and
mm,
Gottman lingo, because I think that they're gurus to marriage and family therapy. So they
mm,
talk about how a lot of couples fight about nothing, and how
mm,
a lot of it is about, core issues that we do not address because we're so busy talking about, you didn't clean the dishes in the sink, or, you're not respecting the fact that I need to go to bed.
mm, mm,
So basically it's about trying to get, before we start this process of getting married, like, let's sit down, let's talk about what are some of your standards? What are some of your expectations?
mm,
So that way I know what you want from me. What do you need from me?
mm.
Instead of it being this mind reading game
Yeah. So I mean,
of, I think
traditionally,
you should
whereas
know.
it might have been enough for people to establish some compatibility, or in modern love, it's, I mean, it's just swiping left and right, and sort of
For
you have a
sure.
match. But eventually, as things get more complicated and people discover other traits
Oh, for
of
sure.
themselves and how some things just show up relationally,
Yeah.
what might some of those things be that prior to a relationship committing itself or moving forward, what might some of those things be that a couple might be mindful of? What should they be looking for?
Well, again, I think the biggest thing is going to be having honest, authentic, open communication
Mm,
and being able to share feelings, concerns, and not feeling that they're going to be judged or criticized.
mm,
And this is where obviously sometimes going to counseling is going to be helpful because
mm,
sometimes it's hard to do that.
mm,
Sometimes it's hard to not, get defensive or feel attacked, and then
mm,
start feeling when you're feeling criticized and judged. You
mm,
know, there's the name calling, right?
mhm.
There's this process that can start happening. So again, obviously, going to therapy and being able to overcome these issues, and talk about it in a healthy way with another person there is really.
I'd still be very interested that, let's say, that what might be some of those parameters that should people be looking for compatibility around, let's say, should they be, I mean, like people sometimes say that opposites attract. Is
Oh,
that,
no, no, no. I do not believe opposites attract.
yeah.
I believe that, you have to have a foundation of this, of friendship,
Mm,
similar interests and hobbies.
okay.
You have to be able to have a positive experience with each other. And what better way than doing things that you love and
Mm,
enjoy? And,
mm,
sometimes even in implementing that in your week,
mm,
you know, making like a once a week activity together to
mm,
start building connection, because I don't know about you, but working every day, I'm home for like 2, 3 hours and then I go to bed.
mm, mm,
So, trying to communicate with each other and be like, hey, when this weekend, can we do something together? A
mm,
positive activity. I feel like when you're opposites, if you don't have similar interests, like what are you doing? How
mm,
are you connecting?
mm. What I really
I don't
love
know.
about what you're saying is that, um even prior to people committing themselves to a relationship, they're establishing that safety, that can be,
For
is there enough
sure.
space for the two of us? And then eventually, when we are adding in details such as work, family, life, all of that is coming in, do we have
Yeah,
that respectful space where we can still sort
exactly.
of do those things together?
Well, and then kind of going back to our earlier conversation, think about this, like if, we're good at dating, we're
Mm,
good at going out to dinner, we're good at communicating over the phone and via text. We have good times with our friends and families, and then we're going to start the next chapter, which is possibly moving in with each other
mm,
or getting married. These are big changes in the relationship. And again, if you're not talking about what do you need?
mm,
What are you possibly expecting, even though expectations are not very healthy? But what do you expect? Oh, I want to have a clean place.
mm-hmm,
Who's making dinner? Are
mm-hmm,
we both making dinner? Who's doing laundry, right? Are we sharing tasks? Is one person going to be more responsible than the other? These are
mm-hmm.
important things that need to be
Yeah.
discussed and talked
So
about.
these seem
You
like
know,
such basic things, but they're so
no
important
one
because
talks about it.
these are
Nobody
eventually
talks
things that
about it.
people fight about. That, I
Of
mean,
course,
you do this
of
and I
course.
don't do this, and mm,
Yeah,
mm,
and if you're not communicating, then it's kind of, inappropriate to be fighting with somebody about something that they didn't even know they were supposed to do,
mm,
you
mm,
know?
mm,
But
mm.
people fight about that,
Yeah.
right? And because people don't communicate and have these mind reading expectations, we get into these bickering fights,
Mm.
and it's really something we should be talking about.
That's very
right?
useful. In today's interview, the two things that stand out for me, both in terms of the premarital counseling and working with that quarter life crisis, I think that's sort of that preparedness that sometimes how we can help someone in before they're committing themselves to something complicated or where they're stuck, how counseling can come in just to sort of
Yeah,
help them, support them, scaffold them during that time of their
yeah.
life.
Well, I think that's why therapy is so valuable because, again, it's somebody you don't know. It's somebody who doesn't have uh, opinions on you. I'm a
Mm,
blank
mm,
slate
mm-hmm,
that you throw whatever colors on me and I'm going to,
mm-hmm.
paint the picture for you of what I
Wow.
hear. And, because I've been working with some people for 5 years. Like I will be like, oh my God, back in the day, you were so bad
Mm,
with boundaries. And today you're
mm,
setting boundaries with people, you're setting up for yourself.
mm,
It is the most beautiful thing that I could be a part of, the
mm,
journey and the growth,
mm.
because it's beautiful. It's amazing. I can't.
Yeah,
I am so it is such an honor to be a therapist.
absolutely.
It
I'm
really
so
is.
glad that we've been able to catch up about your work. We should do this more often, but thank
Yeah.
you for speaking.